This is Global Forum TV. In our new series today, India 2025, we bring you eminent personalities from India and share their vision, comments and opinions about what India would look like in 2025. This is your host, Ameena, Saeed.
The mantra to understand India is Gandhi. Once you understand Gandhi, then you know the way out is there.
If you are going to promote chauvinism of the majority, or what I call chauvinism of the majority, either through the BJP, the opposition Bharatiya Janata Party, or otherwise through one of its ancillaries of what is called the Sangh Parivar, you're going to atomize the Indian political scene.
Rift is going to be China.
Okay.
India will become, as far as some of the core issues of the world are concerned, the global laboratory. Income inequalities have never been more explosive than they are today. I mean, you know, this is it's always been an unequal and hierarchical society.
India is a very stabilizing force. Indian history, Indian culture, and Indian population, Indian immigrants abroad, all this shows that India is an extraordinarily stabilizing force with the capacity for integration.
The whole world is looking at India as the future of this entire globe.
A great country, a proud country, but a country which under capitalism is unfortunately very much unequal. A country in which a part is the urban India and the rest is rural Bharat.
Hello, this is Ameena, Saeed at Global Forum, a platform for global issues with global perspectives in today's global village. We are starting a new series titled India 2025. In this series, we will talk to eminent Indian personalities and discuss their views, opinions, and visions for India in 2025. Today, we have with us one such personality who has become an icon on the Indian scene with meteoric speed. He is Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan. Welcome to Global Forum, Dr. Narayan. Dr. Narayan was trained as a physician, but he switched to Indian Administrative Service, where he held a stellar and brilliant career. His achievements and rewards are too many to list here, but we'll mention a few that stand out. As a joint collector, he rehabilitated 8,000 displaced youth. He played the lead role in the creation of 200,000 acres of irrigation with direct participation of people. He made credit cooperatives independent of governments. He empowered parents in schools, helped speedy justice through rural courts, introduced economic reforms in Andhra Pradesh, helped develop InfoCity in Hyderabad. In 1996, he again resigned his brilliant career and established Lok Satta, an NGO with like-minded people in Andhra Pradesh. Lok Satta emerged as a leading civil society initiative for governance reform. These state-level initiatives then built into a platform for national reform. In 2006, Dr. Narayan made another radical move. He started a political party called Lok Satta. Dr. Narayan, tell us why the move from an NGO to a political party. Also tell us about the political and the criminal nexus that you found when you were bothered by it and what you did about it.
When your goal is to transform the nature of politics, non-party activity has an important role, but a limited role. Our own work, for instance, in terms of combating criminalization is a good illustration of this. We mobilized the public opinion in a large way across the country by identifying criminals in politics, establishing certain benchmarks, and then disclosing their details to the public. That mobilized public opinion in a way rarely seen in this country. It then became a national issue. The courts came in, and the political parties, they joined ranks, and they said, we will not disclose the antecedents of candidates, no matter what. We then led a movement in the country. Most of the media and public opinion, they were all with us. And ultimately, we achieved the disclosure of candidate details. It's a big success at one level. It's also a failure at another level, because that did not change the nature of politics, because while we now know that these are the criminals or people with a criminal record in politics, we could not stop them from entering politics. In the long term it will happen, I have no doubt about it. India is so vast and diverse, many people across the world don't always realize how complex it is. Any large Indian state would be equal to the largest of European countries.
Yes.
And the largest Indian state, Uttar Pradesh, would be the 6th or 7th largest country in the world, with 170 million population.
Yes.
So it's huge. And second, the diversity, particularly of linguistic kind, apart from caste, religion, region, etc., linguistic diversity. There are 15 major Indian languages, as you know and I know.
Yes, yes.
For many people in the world, it's impossible to comprehend that a nation can coexist with 15 separate languages, and with the second biggest language being known to no more than 8% of the people of the country.
Right.
Canada, with just 2 languages, is finding it so hard to try and bring some kind of harmony and unity with Quebec. And given that, you cannot really do everything everywhere in the country. But the situation is somewhat similar in terms of politics and governance across the country. It transcends region, religion, language, everything. So what we have tried to do and what we ought to do is to transfer some of the best practices to make them replicable, but more important, to fight for the institutional changes required pan-nationally across the country.
Have you been successful?
In a significant measure, yes. For instance, the voter registration 10 years ago was extremely flawed. We had about 40% errors in urban areas and 15% in rural areas.
Now we are talking of Andhra Pradesh, or we are talking
across the
nationwide?
country.
Okay.
And that is significantly improved in the past 10 years, largely because of Lok Satta's advocacy. Because we understood the problem, we came up with solutions. And the Election Commission responded magnificently, and there is now a vast improvement.
Okay.
For instance, criminalization of politics. While we could not undermine or reduce criminalization, we could at least expose the problem across the country. Today there is a law in the country whereby every candidate for electoral office in India has to disclose his criminal and financial antecedents.
And that law has, we owe it to Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan for bringing that law into practice. Dr. Narayan, I want to now ask you questions about our India 2025 series. How do you see India today in the world scene?
India in many ways is a paradox. It has enormous promise, great potential, but it's generally recognized within India and outside that that potential is not fulfilled, though in recent years the economic growth, 9% or so, does indicate that we could be well on our way to fulfilling that potential. On the one hand, a country with 1/6 of global population, a country with an ancient civilization of 5,000 years and tremendous continuity in that civilization, a country with extremely rich diversity and yet harmony, a capacity to somehow reconcile many conflicting interests and ethnic differences. It's a remarkable example in an interlinked and diverse and yet increasingly interdependent world. At another level, if you see India's poverty, the monumental problems, the gargantuan problems of illiteracy, of ill health, of very poor infrastructure, of inequities, of injustices which are very glaring, of caste system, which is a very peculiarly Indian practice, which creates social hierarchies which are very difficult to transcend. We have problems of sub-Saharan magnitude and complexity, probably even greater in magnitude and complexity of that kind. But we have unique capabilities which are really first world-like. India is one of the few countries which can overcome these problems because we have institutional strengths and civilizational strengths. So much of what happens in the next 20 years depends on what we do in terms of institutional transformation in the country now.
What is India's globalization strategy, and where do you see India in 2025 on the global scene?
First of all, I don't think there's a globalization strategy for India.
Okay.
Many things happen in India by accident, not by design, by force of circumstances, not by carefully crafted leadership and strategy in place. Even the economic liberalization of 1991, which in some ways is the harbinger of globalization in an economic sense at least, has been more of an accident. It's a compulsion of circumstances rather than a Deng Xiaoping-like vision of a future that really shaped the issues or events.